This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America for this Tuesday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining us this morning as a chilly morning here in upstate New York. And in fact, we have some racetrack cancellations. Beulah, Monticello, Parks, and Northfield have canceled for today due to the cold weather. Absolutely understandable, certainly with the temperatures we're seeing out there. Not fit for man nor beast, as they say. So we've had some cancellations, but still there's plenty of racing action around the country for this Tuesday that we'll be able to enjoy. Coming up a little later on today's program, we will talk with Jason Wilson from the Jockey Club. He's the Vice President of Business Development. They've had some announcements over the past couple of weeks about some initiatives that are going forward that have been talked about or implemented earlier and are either going forward or being revamped a little bit. One of those is that Fox Sports 1 series of nice races that will be broadcast on Fox Sports 1. We'll talk a little bit about that series, which is going to kick off just about a week and a half with the Don, and then we'll also talk about the revamped America's Best Racing bus tour, which has had a little bit of, as I say, a reconfiguring for 2014. We'll talk a little bit about that as well, but we'll get an update on those from Jason Wilson from the Jockey Club. About 10:30, Gary Johnson from Beulah Park regularly visits with us on Tuesdays, usually taking a look at some of the Beulah action, but of course Beulah's canceled for this afternoon. But I did reach out to Gary early this morning and said, we still want you on, because we want to hear all about the very nice performance you had at the National Handicapping Championship. Gary Johnson made it to Sunday, made it into the top 50, and his Sunday performance was pretty nice as well. So we'll talk to Gary a little bit about the National Handicapping Championship out at Las Vegas over the weekend, and then we'll wind things up. We'll visit, again, another regular on Tuesdays, Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise, get some of his thoughts on Turf Paradise racing for this afternoon. Also take a look at a little stakes race they had this past weekend, because I just did want to touch on the winning trainer there, Robertino Diodoro, who's just on fire down there at Turf Paradise. Speaking of on fire, we actually, when we had Andy Serling on yesterday, we were talking about Abra in the 8th race, the Linda Rice horse that was going to be ridden by Taylor Rice. And I said to Andy, what do you think of Taylor Rice? And of course he said, gee, you know, she's really getting it done, doing it nicely, and her agent is doing a great job of putting her on live horses. Taylor Rice, if you're not familiar, is the 25-year-old niece of trainer Linda Rice. And I would recommend you go to the NYRA website. If you haven't seen it already, I had it linked on Equidaily a couple of weeks ago maybe. I think it's probably about that old. But go to the, there's a link for videos somewhere on that NYRA front page. And if you bring it up, I'm sure you'll find it there in the archive. There's an interview with Taylor Rice. And she kind of goes through, it's kind of interesting. She really did not have her career focused on the racetrack. She graduated from college, and I've forgotten what her degree was, but it is far away from, finance or something like that. And just the economy was in such a position when she got out of college within the past few years that she just wasn't finding any work, and decided with so many relations in the the horse racing field that she would take a shot at being a jockey. And so subsequently, there she was being a jockey, and started her career over at Presque Isle. Most recently, before shipping into New York, was at Hawthorne. Came to New York this winter, only been there less than a month, I think, but she's off to a very nice start. Why do I bring her up? Why did I say she's on fire? 4 wins yesterday. As I said, I brought up Taylor Rice with Andy Serling. Little did I know that she was going to have a big day. This is a nice day for a 5-pound apprentice in New York, stringing together 4. A couple for her aunt, Linda Rice, one of them for David Jacobson. Wouldn't be a bad career position to be in if Jacobson started using her a little more. And then another one for Dominic Galuccio, another nice New York trainer to be tied in with. And Galuccio has been kind to Taylor Rice already, using her quite a bit. But again, 25-year-old Taylor Rice, a nice nice day. And she was kind of sitting, jumping in as an apprentice, the winter meet at Aqueduct, which is always a nice place for the apprentices to maybe make a name for themselves. But she was wondering, at the end of the wintertime, back to Chicago or whatnot. And the feeling now is, maybe I won't have to pack the bags again. It certainly is turning out to be a lucrative winter for her. But we'll have to see how the rest of it plays out and how things go for her. But so far, so good with that very, very nice day yesterday. And speaking of apprentices, brought this up on the weekend show, Loose on the Lead, but I don't think I've followed up here. Didn't talk about it yesterday. Did want to touch on it, though. Matt Rispoli, who we talked a little bit about last week, who was in that the holiday card at Gulfstream where they had 2 spills on the card, and it seemed like the jockeys got out okay, but 5 jockeys involved in those 2 spills. 4 of them walked off the track. Matt Rispoli, however, was taken to the hospital, and as the week progressed, there really wasn't a follow-up. Asked a little bit of Ron Nicoletti when we had him on the show on Friday, and he kind of alluded to what's come out since. There was a Blood Horse article that did follow up. Matt Rispoli, end of last week, was released from the hospital, but he was pretty banged up in that spill. A concussion, broken right tibia, 4 fractures to his face. And the tibia, he's in a precarious situation, and certainly we send out good thoughts to Matt Rispoli, because here was a young jockey kind of on the up and come down there in Florida. But the break in the tibia is going to require some stabilization and perhaps a rod or whatnot. And that may make it hard for him to use the leg in a way that would allow him to continue riding. So his career is really in a dicey position right now. So again, he came out of that spill with some serious injuries and that could threaten his career because of the reconstruction work that will be done on the broken bone in the leg could make things, as I say, difficult for him to ride in the future. So again, we'll send out good thoughts, but that's just a follow-up on Matt Rispoli. Another one I touched on the weekend, but I just want to remind folks because tomorrow is the day. We've touched on this story over the past few months. Illinois is in a dicey situation with things kind of hinging on legislation that has to be passed by the end of the month, end of this month, and involving those ADW laws that just need kind of a rubber stamp almost. And this legislation came before the state legislature in Illinois October or November, but at that point the horse racing interests in the state were kind of at odds, and so the legislators said, you guys get a unified front, then come back to us with this legislation. Subsequently, the horse racing interest in Illinois did come together. They presented their unified front to the legislature, which had a shot, I don't know, December or very early this month, but there was a shot. The legislature, which again, as I say, pretty much a rubber stamp at this point, did not choose to make that rubber stamp. So now we're coming to a deadline position. Tomorrow, the Illinois legislature meets for 1 day, but it's for the State of the Union address. And Mike Riopel, who I've had on the show before, writes for the Daily Herald, and he covers the State House in Illinois. And he notes that the legislature showing up tomorrow for the State of the Union address, but it's a day that is typically, as he says, pomp-laden, consumed by post-game criticisms and plaudits of the governor, followed by a race to get out of Springfield and back home. So it is absolutely questionable whether this legislation will be put in front of the legislature tomorrow, and that's the last opportunity. If it doesn't happen, Illinois is facing a drastically reduced race schedule for 2014. And with some of the prominent thoroughbred and harness tracks out there, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. This happens tomorrow. Happens or doesn't happen tomorrow in Illinois. State of the Union address will be held. Legislature will be there, but will they take up this ADW legislation in Illinois? Again, we'll pay attention to that tomorrow out in Illinois. Also did want to remind you, we had we talked a little bit within the past week and a half or so ago, did a little recap 2013 highlights on the harness racing side with one of the representatives from the USTA. She mentioned the free handicapping contest series, the online handicapping series that will be available. And I just wanted to remind folks, first one of those comes up at the end of this week. There is a series of 10 free online qualifying contests for the $60,000 World Harness Handicapping Championship. That's going to be held at the Meadowlands on April 19th. The first qualifier will focus on Northfield on Thursday night, then the Meadows on Friday. There's another 8 in that series. These are free online handicapping contests focusing on the sulky side of the game, but again, could get you down there to the Meadowlands in April to participate in that $60,000 World Harness Handicapping Championship. Again, first contest up, free online, starts this Thursday. I have a link to the info and the schedule on Equidaily, but keep that in mind. If you're a harness guy, even if you aren't a harness guy, jump in. It's a free online contest, so it should be kind of fun to play. Greg Hall had an interesting article in the Courier Journal. Actually, I think it was over on his blog side, but he talked about a meeting this afternoon that will take place down in Kentucky, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. They're going to talk a little bit about, and this is interesting. You go back to last year, they changed up their rules in Kentucky so that now the Kentucky Racing Commission's vets are the ones who administer Lasix. And so some horsemen have brought up the question, well, what if there's a problem with the Lasix? The rules haven't really been changed in a way that specifies where the penalty goes. So with the commission's vets now administering the Lasix, are the vets still liable if there's a problem? And I think it's a completely legitimate question. I think they will have to address that in some fashion and tweak the rules and be maybe a little bit more specific about the rules. But it's something that is supposed to be talked about. Again, that there's a meeting today of the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. So I would expect by the end of the day, maybe tomorrow, we'll hear a little bit more about whether that was talked about and really specifically addressed. All right, do want to go to something I talked about at the beginning of the week and at the end of last week as well. The Prix d'Amérique, the French harness race, one of the richest trotting races in the world. And every year I pull up the YouTube videos, and I have some videos over on Equidaily. We'll certainly, I think tomorrow we'll have the pomp side of this. Today I wanted to just take a look at the race. But 18 horses, it is a huge event. If you watch some of the videos, huge crowd, celebrities show up. There's parades coming down the home stretch and cheerleaders. It's an incredible event over in France, Vincennes, and about $1.3 million on the line. This is essentially a 1 2/3 mile race, 18 horses. It was won by a Swedish horse called Maharaja. They have a crowd that shows up with flags and their favorites. Here we go taking a look at the start, and this is kind of unique. It's a running start. 18 horses, and bam, they come out of the infield, and there they go. It's just a crazy start, a crazy event, big field, a lot of fun, and as I say, maybe tomorrow I'll bring in a little of the video of the pomp and the party that's involved. But I did want to show you, the start right there, which is kind of fun, and in a minute when the guys can get it queued up, we'll look at about the last minute of the race as we go into the commercial break. It is a French race call, so you can hear the race call as they come down. But again, it is Maharaja getting the job done. It is the first non-French horse to win, I think, since 2006, they said, something like that. You know, held in France. Obviously, there is a big contingent rooting for that. But Maharaja is a Swedish superstar. That one gets it done. It's Maharaja over Up and Quick, and then Yara Boko in the third position. But again, an incredible event with a huge, we think of harness racing over here. Tomorrow I'll try to bring in something that shows a little bit of the crowd too. Huge crowd. It's just mind-boggling when we think about our trot side and whatnot. So there you go. There was just a little look at the Prix d'Amérique. We'll head to the first break right now. When we come back, we have Jason Wilson from the Jockey Club. Again, we'll talk a little bit about some of the initiatives they have that they've talked about in press releases over the past couple of weeks, but we'll get some specifics right after that. A little later on, Gary Johnson, and then Michael Chamberlain as well. So all of that right after this.
Giraboko finit bien, les autres sont loin. Faute de Ridicatre. Et Pankovic, Jean-Michel Bazir est en tête à l'entrée droite. Giraboko, Maharaja lutte pour les places. Jean-Michel Bazir avec Pankovic attaqué par Maharaja. Maharaja retrouvé comme en 2011. Maharaja, la Suède. Maharaja s'est retrouvé. Le retour, le comeback de Maharaja, le 17 qui l'emporte. Et Pankovic, le 4. Et deuxième à distance, le 8, Yaraboka. Et troisième, le 15. Roxane Griffe certainement quatrième et Timoko, le numéro 15 qui n'est pas loin du numéro 16 de Timoko qui doit être cinquième.
Et oui, il avait toujours fait une préparation.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, we are joined now by Jason Wilson, Vice President of Business Development at the Jockey Club. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. And my inbox was hit by some press releases from the Jockey Club over the past few weeks. Interesting initiatives that are either being continued and revamped a little bit or some brand new things that sound a little bit exciting. And one of those is that partnership with Fox One that has been talked about for a while now. Things are starting to firm up. We're about maybe a week and a half or so away from the first broadcast. Really looking forward to it. But Jason, before we get to specifics, why don't we go back to last year? Just tell us a little bit about how this partnership between Fox One and the Jockey Club came about.
Sure. You know, it's interesting because it probably even preceded last year. It was during the 2011 McKinsey study. We reached out to, I think, all the networks and asked them kind of what their perspective of horse racing was. And in that process, we struck up a relationship with the guys over at Fox Sports. David Hill, who was the founder of Fox Sports back in the 80s. Is a horse fan. He's from Australia, and he just loves racing. And from that relationship, or from that kind of initial discussion, over the course of about a year, 18 months, every so often we kind of get together and just bat around ideas. And it all kind of crystallized probably about a year ago when we said, the Kentucky Derby and the 3-year-olds get a lot of press. Why don't we focus on the older horses and see if we can do something there that's kind of a year-long series featuring, that age of horse. The way that we like to describe it is the 3-year-olds are the college athletes and the older horses are the professional athletes. Let's focus on the professional athletes. And that resonated with them and it resonated with us. And in short order we were able to put something together and shop it to the tracks.
Yeah, and as I say, I'm excited to see it kicked off. I will bring up, you talked about focusing on the older horses. I'm sure you read the Steve Chris column, which was a little bit critical and brought up a good point of it's not necessarily focusing on the handicap division. That certainly, he went back to that ACRS series going back to the 90s, I think, which was a series of races kind of meant to maybe determine or help determine a championship in that handicap division. This doesn't necessarily focus on that handicap division in general. So give us an idea what the thought process was there and how the races were picked out.
Sure, and kudos to the ACRS, way back when for getting it all together. I think that was a great series of races. Our goal was not to recreate that series of races, but to do something that kind of fit today. We look at this as more of a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if we had waited for the ideal conditions to kind of come forth in order to get all the races that we wanted to get on TV, it just wouldn't have happened. So, we set out to get a certain series of races. Some we got, and some we didn't. And over the course of, I think, the next couple of years, we're going to work hard to get the races that we didn't get and expand from the 9 races or the 10 races that we're going to have this year to, I think, a much more robust series of races.
Interesting. So, based on the success of what happens this year, the series may expand next year. And let me ask you this. Is there a chance it would even expand this year? Or is this year pretty much set and you would look to expansion in years down the road?
Well, this year we do have the option to get up to 10 races, and everyone notices that there are 9 on the schedule. I would love to get that 10th race onto the schedule, and I'm working hard to do it. So we might see, a 10% increase, if you will, this year. Our goal is to have increased television. So we may not get it next year. We may not get it in 2016, but over the course of time, we're going to grow from the 9 or 10 races we have this year to more races. And then, who knows? Maybe something else kind of crops up on a different network at some point over the course of the year. So we are working hard trying to kind of fill out the schedule.
And I'm looking down the tracks that are participating: Gulfstream, Meydan, and Dubai. But then Keeneland, Belmont, Monmouth, Del Mar, a number of visits to Saratoga. We're right up there in that area, so we like that. Woodbine wrapping things up on September 14th with the very nice Woodbine Mile. Maybe Wise Dan will be back there again this year. We'll keep our fingers crossed. But what's been the response from the racetracks that are participating?
The two things that resonate very well with them are number one, we're going to focus more on gambling. We're putting together our format for the first show, and it's really coming together nicely. And I think people will take notice that this is a little bit different than what they've seen in the past from national television. And the second, there's definitely a range of reactions with respect to whether we should be on national TV. But I think most of the tracks embrace that. They really want the national exposure. They do think it's important for the sport to kind of embrace the mainstream in any way they can, and they've been very good partners throughout.
Yeah, I'm surprised there would be any pushback because I think any exposure like this is great for the sport. As I say, I'm excited. And you alluded to it. I had this as one of the things I wanted to touch on with you. The initial indications were that this series was going to focus maybe a little more on gambling and handicapping than some of the mainstream racing productions that we've seen, let's say, over the past decade or so. And so fill us in. Is that still the game plan, and how will that be implemented?
That's still the game plan. I don't want to tip my hat too much, but I think what you'll find is one, the pace is going to be a little bit quicker, even though it's a longer show. It's going to be a quicker pace. I think the second thing is you're going to see a little bit more integration of ADWs into the programming. I think our competitive advantage is that you can gamble online. And if you ask the average person, walking down the street, whether gambling online is legal for horse racing, they'll probably say no. They probably don't know. So raising that awareness, just doing that one thing, raising the awareness that you can gamble online legally, I think is a very important thing that we're trying to do. So we'll have a little bit more integration of the ADWs. And then, we're trying to push the envelope a little bit on what we can and can't say with respect to handicapping and building tickets and managing bankrolls and all that other fun good stuff that we like to talk about. We're going back and forth with the legal team, I guess, over at Fox. But we're trying to be very aggressive with respect to that stuff.
That's interesting, and that's something that I think most people aren't aware of. And for years, I had a little television production company myself. I wasn't doing things on the network level, so it even floats under my radar. But gambling and standards and practices kind of butt heads on mentioning some of the gambling aspects?
Yeah, standards and practices, rightfully, they're the gatekeepers of trying to make sure that the rules are all followed. And part of it is an education process. They kind of lump everything together without kind of going through and getting the analysis of, okay, horse racing is in fact different. And these are the legal constructs that we rely upon in order to, operate our business. So, that's been, Fox came into the process with a very kind of enlightened and aggressive point of view with respect to that. And so our starting point with respect to them was at a much more advanced place than it was with others.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you bring that up. They may be more, it may be an education process because they may be more of, the football broadcast. I think obviously standards and practices will frown a little bit on talking about the gambling side. But gambling on horse racing is completely legal. So it may be a little bit of a education process that will move forward as the series moves forward as well. So we'll keep our fingers crossed because certainly, as I say, I think as players, we would love to see more of that focus on some of these broadcasts. You mentioned talking a little bit about online wagering and maybe making that, giving that more exposure. But speaking on the online side, do you have any plans for maybe social media tie-ins with the series?
Yeah, it's funny. The guys at Fox have really just opened up the kimono with respect to all their kind of tools and all their divisions. And their digital team, their social media team, is working with our social media team on how to promote the telecast, but also promote the shows as they're going on. So I think we've got some neat ideas that will be shown in a couple of weeks. One of the issues is going to be execution. We're going to try a lot of different things. Some will work, some won't. But we're going to keep trying to innovate around social and digital media to get people kind of talking about racing.
Nice. And it's been noted that there may be some races added, not to the series. Now, you got the 9 races in there. We've already talked about that. But within the broadcast, some of these, the list is listing one race for each broadcast. But the potential is there to add another race or two to some of these broadcasts?
There will definitely be at least 2 races each broadcast.
Very good.
Some broadcasts will have 3, and some broadcasts we're gonna kind of have a bonus race from another track potentially. So
that's what I was going to ask you. Will the races be from the same track, or will you go to other tracks for in one broadcast?
Yeah, there is a potential to go to other tracks.
Very good. And another thing that is still waiting to be announced: when will the team be firmed up? You're only about a week and a half away. I'm assuming you guys have some pretty good ideas. But when will we hear who the broadcast team is?
Yeah, you mentioned about press releases hitting your inbox. I think there might be another one sometime by the end of this week. The only hiccup is the guys at Fox have a little event this Sunday that is kind of diverting their attention a little bit, but we hope to announce that pretty soon.
Very good. And I'm assuming you're happy and you got a good team put together.
Yeah, we went through a process here. We had dozens of people inquire. We invited about 10 to 12 out to LA for some auditions, and then we had vociferous debate with respect to the people that were there. so we're pretty pleased with the process we went through, and we're pretty pleased with the team that we got.
Nice. I'm looking forward to see who you got on board. All right, let's shift our attention to another one of the initiatives that kind of came out of that McKinsey study from August of 2011. That was the America's Best Racing Bus Tour. Press release came out about the 2014 version of that, and it seems like the bus tour has maybe been revamped a little bit this year. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Last year we had 6 brand ambassadors, and they went from event to event, all 6 of them. They made some really great relationships. I think we've established in all the markets we went to, we established relationships with 80, we call them influencers. So these are people who blog and do social media. They have about 500,000 followers altogether. But one of the things we noticed in doing our kind of debrief at the end of the year was, as they left a market, kind of the interaction between the people in the market that they just left kind of lagged a little bit. So what can we do to build upon those relationships that we've established? And what we decided to do this year was embed the 6 brand ambassadors within a market. So you'll have 2 brand ambassadors in New York, 2 in LA, 1 in Miami, and 1 in Chicago, and they'll be responsible kind of for a home track as well as that region around them, trying to get people more interested in racing, with a focus more on kind of the younger generation. I think there's been a little bit of debate as to should we focus on younger or older, or this or that. I think we should focus on all of them. But one thing that study after study that I've read, and I've read studies going back 10 or 12, 20 years, that kind of rings through all that is people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are hardcore followers of the sport. They all enter the sport through friends and family when they were younger, right? When they were in their teens and 20s, and even 30s, and then they came back to the sport later on. We hope to kind of be that friend and family member to get that 20-year-old, that 30-year-old interested in the sport, and that'll lead to, I think, a lifelong interest in what's going on.
Yeah, I agree completely, because I got into the game because in high school, a good buddy of mine who'd been introduced by his family, my family wasn't interested at all, but a good friend of mine had been introduced by his family, and I then got introduced through him, got a peer my age in high school, and I think that is the age where you want to get the folks at least familiar with the game and introduced, and maybe they become a little more involved later on, but certainly the introduction being made early is very important, and I think the bus tour did a great job of that last year. Will the bus still be making some stops at some of the major events?
Yeah, I think the bus, I have to look, I might be a little bit off by this because I think the schedule's still being ironed out, but I think the bus is going to make 11 or 12 stops. And yeah, it's going to be part of what's going on.
Very good. And Jason, just before we let you go, we've already alluded to the McKinsey report a couple of times. It came out at the Jockey Club meeting in Saratoga, August of 2011. Certainly some nice things have come out of that through the Jockey Club, including the bus tour and the Fox series, all kinds of offshoots of that. But just give us a quick little update of the McKinsey report and the initiatives that were talked about and where we are now, a couple of years later.
Sure. So really quickly, on the owner side of things, they recognize that there should be more of a concerted effort around ownership resources and ownership recruitment. This year, we're going to have our first ever owners conference down at Keeneland in October. I think there was a press release went out earlier this year. We've got 4 track groups as main sponsors. That includes Keeneland, NYRA, Del Mar, and the Stronach Group. So we're working really hard towards making that a really great event, and I'm looking forward to that one. The next one is, McKinsey recognized we have a little bit of a brand issue, and having kind of uniform medication rules was something that was very key towards addressing that brand issue. So we've worked hard and very diligently over the past couple years in creating some reform medication and penalties that have been, they're either being adopted or under consideration in the majority of racing jurisdictions across the country. So, our goal is within 5 years, can we get, these reformed, uniform medication rules adopted throughout racing, which would go a long way towards, kind of the integrity issues that we all cite all the time. And then the last thing I'll touch on is on the scheduling side of things. You know, we often have noted that important races are run on top of each other. So Encompass has built in their racetrack management software a scheduling tool that helps racetracks better manage whether they're going to run on top of each other and how to optimize their schedule for handle. So those are just a few of the things that have kind of come out of this McKinsey study. You know, we kind of hit the ground running back then, and I think we're starting to see some good results.
Yeah, I think you put it well. Hit the ground running, because it seems like coming out of that August 2011 Jockey Club Roundtable up at Saratoga, things have really moved forward nicely with some high-profile things like the bus tour, like the Fox Series, and some behind-the-scenes things that are important. And that you mentioned that uniform medication. That is absolutely important, not just from public perception, but on the horseman side of things. When horsemen shift from jurisdiction to jurisdiction,
right,
they're facing different rules, and that has really, over the past year, taken hold. It seems like first the Mid-Atlantic states did it, and now it's blossoming out. So that, I think, has been a great initiative that seems to be moving forward and is very good for the industry.
Yep.
Jason, we certainly appreciate the visit this morning. We'll have our eyes on Fox Sports 1, February 9th, about a week and a half as the series kicks off. Really looking forward to it. And, of course, the bus tour had a couple of the kids on with me up at Saratoga, so we'll look forward to seeing them at some of the big events. And congratulations on the successes out of that McKinsey study that the Jockey Club has had so far, and good luck going forward. Thanks for the visit this morning.
Thanks. Anytime.
All right. Jason Wilson, Vice President of Business Development from the Jockey Club. We'll take our next break. Gary Johnson from Beulah Park will get a little update on his performance over the weekend, National Handicapping Championship. All of that right after this.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB Bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. We are very happy to be joined now by Gary Johnson from Beulah Park. Typically, he jumps in, gives us some selections for Beulah on a Tuesday. However, cold weather has canceled Beulah for today, but I reached out and said, Gary, we still want you on board because we want to talk a little bit about the weekend. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks with Gary as he was heading out. National Handicapping Championship, and he had a very good weekend. We'll get to specifics in a moment, Gary, but Gary, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. I really appreciate it. It was a long weekend.
And I also, before we move on, just wanted to touch on this. We were talking to you during the break. Beulah canceled, cold weather. But the cold weather has stranded you as well on your way back from Vegas.
Well, actually, I made it into Cleveland last night on the last plane. I was very, very lucky. They cram-packed the plane because there was a lot of cancellations going to other areas. And But I was lucky to get back into Cleveland on the final plane of the day. So if I could only get that final winner of the contest as good as that plane worked out on, it's okay.
There you go. And Gary, as I said, congratulations, and let's give the specifics now. It was a 3-day contest, Friday and Saturday. There were, how many people were there? It was 350, something like that? Do you know the number?
They were exactly 497 entries.
Oh, wow, this is even better. This is even better then. So 497. So the first 2 days, they used those 2 days to winnow the field down to 50. Those 50 went to Sunday, and then early on Sunday, they winnowed those 50 down to the last 10 that made it to the final table. Well, after Saturday, you were number 49. You went into that Sunday. You wound up number 24. That was a big, it's great in a field of almost 500 to make it to the last 50. But then the top 25 and move up from 49 to 24 on the last day. Good job.
Yeah, Seth. I mean, I'll give you a little story probably nobody knows. On Saturday, you know, I moved up a little bit. You know, I think I started the day in 80th place. And then Saturday, I had a couple winners early, but nothing big. But then bombs away, the bombs started hitting. And I started falling off the map there, and I was in 110th place, you know, in the top 50 go. I had one play left, and I sat and waited. I waited for a couple hours with that one play, and I saved it for Golden Gate 9th race. And I liked the little maiden in there. You know, it was just a matter of the price was going to be okay for me because they posted the leaderboard. I kind of knew what I had to do, and I ended up playing the horse. It was the final race of the day on Saturday. The horse won, and I finished 49th. I beat 3 people by 60 cents. I ended up a long shot ran second. I got a $9 place price on an 8-to-1 shot, and it put me into the top 50. I mean, miracle.
Oh, that's great. And that, I'm sure that had to take a lot of willpower if you were sitting there for a couple hours with one bullet left as you're watching races go by. Did you have this Golden Gate horse all sussed out and you were ready to play that one?
You know, I go in with my plays. You know, I think I had 15 plays for that day that I wanted to play, and naturally some of them, the odds don't show up or different things change. But it was a play that I had mapped out, you know, and, you know, I kind of do the last races in case something like this happened. But I'll tell you the truth, it was the longest. I wanted to play. I got up to go make other plays before that because I just thought, you know, let's get this over with and let me take a shot. And I just held myself back. And believe me, I'm a compulsive gambler. I love to gamble, and to sit there that long for me, it was a challenge. I mean, it was just, I don't know why I did it, and I did it, and it was unbelievable because you know you have to wait a half hour after the race runs for them to put the final thing up. Well, I had to go by 55 people, and even then I said, you know, a couple people got to have it. I mean, you know, because I'm looking at the money-wise. The money-wise, I was going to be $3 ahead of the 50th person at that time before that race. But I got lucky. Everybody already played all their plays, most of the people. I mean, very lucky.
That's great. And then, as I say, you get to the last day, and you bounce up very nicely on Sunday to finish 24th. As I understand it, top 50 is... Just getting into the top 50 was $4,000. What's 24th get you?
I ended up with $7,500, which was nice.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, comparable. I mean, I think the 10th person got $11,000, so I didn't feel too bad about that. I did. I'll tell you the truth. I was hot. I caught a huge bias of Aqueduct. I focused in. That's all I played, and I got right in the game. And you know, I had 3 plays left, and I was probably up to about 12th or 13th. I mean, I was right there in the. CC Lopez fell off one, and you know, a few little things happened, but you know, what can I do? I mean,
as I say though, to make it to the last day and then to bounce up like you did on the last day, that was really great. When I saw you made that last day, I was really happy at the end of Saturday looking at the results board, and so I'm really happy for you. And again, you walked away. That's a pretty nice payday for a weekend out in Vegas. So certainly hats off, and hats off also for picking up on that bias, because we did the show on Sunday, and my partner on the show on Sunday, Steve Bick from Sirius and XM Radio, he owns the DT Stable Runners, and they had a horse in the finale on Sunday, Corey Band, who was an incredible long shot, and Steve said, I hope it's his speed favoring today as it was on Saturday. And sure enough, Sunday afternoon, Corey Bond got out there and winged it at 22-1. Couldn't hold on for the win, but wound up a good second. So that speed bias was certainly something to be keyed in on, and picking up on that was a great move as well.
Yeah, usually on any contest format, I try to watch. I watch every track I think we had 7 of them. Well, they canceled Aqueduct on Friday. But I got a little system. I never bet the first 2-3 races. I always watched the tracks to, see if something like that happened. And on Saturday, I picked up on it, and I just went right in, and I think I hooked, I caught Rainforest, a little bug girl on the inside that was stalking. And, I like CC Lopez on Speed Horse, and I caught Concealed. And those 2 horses kind of got me back, right back in it, because it was real tight at that time, with the points. So when I went into Sunday's handicap, and I just focused in all Aqueduct. And we was only allowed the first 7 races of Aqueduct. They narrowed it down to 27 races on Sunday. And, so I just focused in on Aqueduct, and could have got real lucky because I had a couple horses I liked My New Hope on Sunday with a bad form, and I thought I was getting a huge price, but didn't break too good. But it's the way it goes.
Yeah, but again, that was, and that is a contest. Sometimes you get the breaks and sometimes you don't, but that was still a very, very good performance, really impressive. As I say, make the last table and then do as well as you did on the last day. So congratulations again. Gary, we'll let you go. Again, Beulah is canceled for this afternoon, so no selections, but we'll get you back on board next Tuesday and talk a little Beulah and try to get some winners then. But again, Gary, congratulations. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Rex. Looking forward to it.
All right, Gary Johnson from Beulah Park. We'll take our last break. When we come back, Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. Stay tuned.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report. Weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
And we'll be living vicariously looking at Turf Paradise on the TV this afternoon. What's the weather forecast?
75 and sunny.
Nice.
So we've got a typical Phoenix day, the week of the Phoenix Open, actually. They're going to be here this week, and that's always an exciting thing here for the folks in the Valley.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. But yeah, we will be living vicariously because you are. Well, I bet you're about 80 degrees, 80 degrees warmer than we are this morning. So we'll certainly enjoy Turf Paradise for this afternoon. Before we get to some thoughts for today, though, I wanted to go back to this past weekend in a little stakes race on Saturday. The Swift, it was for 4-year-olds and up, going 5.5 furlongs. We're going to watch the stretch run here. It will be the number 4 LA Weekend getting it done. And I wanted to bring this up, because I opened up my Merriam-Webster's this morning, and under Horse for Course, they had LA Weekend. She's now 5 for 5 over the track. And I also wanted to bring it up because this one trained by trainer Robertino Diodoro, who just is kind of running away with this Turf Paradise meet. But also, and I just kind of picked up on him recently, focusing on Turf Paradise over the past few months, But he has a nice little record out at Santa Anita this season too. Only 18 starters, but 5 wins, a couple of second-place finishes, 3 third-place finishes. So he's doing pretty well when he runs out in Southern California as well. But give us your thoughts, on LA Weekend and Diodoro as well.
Well, LA Weekend, first of all, that was just a tremendous performance, and it was the perfect prep race for the Phoenix Gold Cup, which will be on February 15th. So that race basically comes 3 weeks before the big sprint here at Turf Paradise, and we're all looking forward to that. It should be a fantastic race. We always get a couple of those sprinters coming in from some of the other tracks out here in the West, and it should be a great test for LA Weekend. Won the race last year, and I expect him to come through with a big race again this year, and just a tremendous tour de force this past weekend, and looking forward for that again in 3 weeks. As far as Robertino Diodoro goes, first of all, a great guy. I mean, you can't say enough nice things about him, and he just takes the success in stride, which is great to see. You mentioned his record at Santa Anita. He will always pop up out there and run a horse that could certainly do well. And don't forget, he did have a horse in the Breeders' Cup this year with Broadway Empire, who was, taxed by those fractions with Golden Sense in the Dirt Mile, and then ended up, unfortunately, having a quarter crack sustained in the Zia Park race that he went to. So he's been on the shelf for a little while. We'll hopefully see him come back sometime here in the near future. But Diodoro is just having a phenomenal meet. Not only is he winning at 33%, set that aside, he's got 79 other second and third place finishes out of 215 starters. So you tack the 72 wins he's got on to 79. That's 151 if I'm doing my math correctly. So 150 out of 215 starters have hit the board for Robertino Diodoro this season. That's just an unbelievable percentage.
Yeah, and as I say, I've picked up on him, and you just have to, if you're handicapping out there at Turf Paradise, he's a name that you certainly have to give some extra weight to. All right, let's take a look at a couple of races for this afternoon. And I also looked at Turf Paradise for the handicapping report that was on earlier this morning on the network, so I have some thoughts as well. The 5th race today is an allowance non-winners of 3 lifetime, going a mile on the turf. I used your horse in my mix, and I'm scared of that horse, but I put The Obsession on top off of the good improving numbers, the good improving form. Question mark for The Obsession is the move from dirt to turf, but the horse has some pretty good turf form back in the past performances as well. So I went The Obsession, but as I say, your horse is one that scares me a little bit.
Well, I have The Obsession in my pick 5 play as well, but my top pick is going to be the outside horse, number 8, Indy Racer. Rocco Bowen gets the ride here for trainer Valerie Lund. And this horse posted a bullet work January 20th, a half mile, 48 seconds flat. And there is some recent turf form here for Indy Racer, having run in November and December on the turf here at Turf Paradise. Finished 4th in both of those races, but the pattern was very similar. One was in the Cody Stakes, and another one was at the non-winner of 3 allowance level, which he will race at today. Finished 4th in both of those, but led into the stretch on both occasions. So if you're looking for some other speed in here that could possibly challenge Indy Racer up top, 3 Sports Report with Jorge Carreño might go out, the 4 Aerial Artist might go out, but there really isn't much other speed in here. And if Indy Racer could get any kind of a comfortable lead in that 5th race, it could just possibly go all the way in front. And I'm anxious to see it, because last time he cut back to a 6.5 furlong sprint on the dirt, ran 2nd in that race, got beat pretty badly by 7 1/4 lengths by the winner. But coming back to the turf now and stretching back out, maybe that's a nice tightening effort, and I think Indy Racer could be good to go today.
Yeah, and as I say, this one scares me on all the factors you mentioned, so it wouldn't shock me at all to see that one get up there. In the 9th, I did not use your horse in my mix, but this 9th to me was a little bit of a skull buster. I wound up going in the 9th race, which is a 3,500 conditional claimer at 6.5 furlongs. I wound up using Wild Wings, but without much confidence. As I said during the handicapping report, you have a low percentage trainer, and I don't typically like to put that kind on top. It's a limited starters at the meet, but no wins at the meet. But you do get the hot apprentice on board. There were some things to like, some things against. I went with Wild Wings, but with some real trepidation. So I think a little bit of anything can happen here, but you went in a different direction in the finale.
My pick is the 8-horse Tough to Catch with Jake Barton riding for Bobby Grissom. Only 4% for the meet so far, but did hit at 15% for the calendar year 2013. So Bobby Grissom certainly a good trainer. And this horse, basically this pick was made on the backflash. If you look back into what happened last season at Turf Paradise in the spring, the horse broke the maiden in a maiden claimer by 15-plus lengths. Came back to run with non-winners of 2 and had success at that level, going 6.5 furlongs, finally getting a win on April 26th. Now, took some time off after that, basically didn't race for the summer, came back and was in non-winner of 3 companies, significantly better than what he will be facing today. Then settled back into this level, but 2 of those races were at a mile. So the cutback in distance last time out, I think, was a good thing. Ended up going 6 furlongs, ran 5th, and ended up running out of gas a little bit toward the end. But I think that second sprint start off of those 2-mile races could possibly be one where this horse is going to find his win, and I think Tough to Catch could pop at a price today. This horse is, all of his in-the-money finishes have come right here at Turf Paradise, 7 for 13 in the money at the track. And the breeding is very nice with Alphabet Soup, the sire, and you've got Thunder Gulch underneath. So I think there's a lot to like here at a horse that could possibly trigger a very nice price in the final race today.
Yeah, and this is the kind of race where I would not argue with anybody taking a shot at a little bit of a price. And you go back to that maiden breaker, and a nice buyer figure fired there shows that this horse can pop a big one at any given moment. So I wouldn't argue with, as I say, taking a little bit of a shot with yours in a race that I think is a little bit inscrutable. All right, Michael, as always, appreciate the visit, and we'll wish you good luck this afternoon at Turf Paradise. As I say, we'll be watching and soaking in the sun vicariously. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you next week.
Good luck, and before I go, Denver 34, Seattle 10.
Oh, wait, let me write that down. Denver 34, because we'll give you kudos for that if you get it next week as well. Seattle 10, 34-10?
34-10. Peyton's going to blow them out.
All right, I like that. Very good. Again, Michael, we'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Michael Chamberlain from Turf Paradise also tossed in a little Super Bowl selection. Maybe we should be getting that from all the handicappers this week. Let's see if they can branch out into another sport. All right, that'll wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Tuesday morning. Before we go, do want to remind you again, boxing tonight at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. The amateur boxing that was supposed to be held a week ago yesterday. It was moved to tonight. If you're a boxing fan, if you've been to the other ones, you know how much fun it is. If you haven't been, get on down because it is a lot of fun. Amateur boxing tonight will kick off around 7 o'clock. 711 Central Avenue in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook. And also, just a reminder, coming up on February 1st will be the monthly OTB handicapping contest. This month is the Super Bet contest, part of the handicapping series. $100 entry fee, maximum of 3 entries. You can sign up, learn more about it at capitalotb.com. Again, that comes up on February 1st. That's going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Tuesday. I'm Seth Merrill. We're in here every Monday through Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. A little earlier, it was Mike Jarwo and I doing the handicappers report. We looked at Sam Houston and Turf Paradise. Canceled today are Parks, Beulah, Monticello, and Northfield. All the other Tuesday tracks are on board, though. So hopefully we gave out some good information earlier. Cash some tickets. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.